The wind howled across the frozen wasteland, sharp as knives and cold as death. Jace pulled his coat tighter around his body, his boots crunching through thick layers of snow. His breath came out in clouds, fogging his old visor. This planet cryophores, not made for people like him, but here he was, a lone scavenger, walking across ice and rock, looking for anything worth trading. He had survived here for 5 winters. Alone, the colony was long dead, and only a few shelters remained underground. The sky stayed dark most of the year, and the storms could tear through steel. No one sane came here, but Jace was not here. By choice, he was hiding from his past, from war, from himself. As he passed a broken satellite dish half buried in snow, something caught his eye. A shape, small, dark, and not moving. At first, he thought it was just wreckage or frozen junk. But then he saw a hand, small, delicate, not human. Jace froze, heart pounding, an alien here. He stepped closer, carefully, rifle slung on his shoulder. The figure lay face down in the snow, her body trembling, her skin a soft lavender blue. She wore no coat, no shoes, just thin cloth barely covering her. Snowflakes melted on her skin, steam rising gently off her glowing body. She was still alive, but barely. She didn't move when he kneeled beside her. Her breathing was shallow, lips almost blue. One of her arms was stretched out like she had been crawling. She had collapsed in the middle of nowhere. Alone, Jace stared at her for a moment, unsure what to do. He knew the rules don't help strangers, especially not aliens. Too many were dangerous. Spies, escaped prisoners, or worse. But this girl looked young, lost, and helpless, and something in his chest refused to let him walk away. He reached out his hand slowly. "Hey," he said softly, "you're gonna freeze out here." No answer, no movement. He touched her shoulder, and her eyes snapped open. They were large, glowing silver, filled with panic and pain. She tried to crawl away, but her limbs gave out. Jace raised both hands to show he meant no harm. "Easy. I'm not here to hurt you," he said. The girl stared at him, breathing hard, shivering. Then, weakly, she whispered one word in broken English. "Hunted." Jace's blood went cold. What did that mean? Was someone chasing her? He looked around quickly. No footprints but his own. No drones in the sky. Not yet. "Anyway, I'll take you somewhere warm," he said. The girl didn't answer, but she didn't resist when he picked her up. She was lighter than she looked. Her skin cold like ice, but soft. He turned back the way he came, moving fast. Snow began to fall harder, the wind screaming in his ears. After an hour, he reached the cave, hidden behind thick rocks. Inside was his shelter, a rough home built from scavenged parts and old tech. He laid the alien girl on a pile of blankets near the heater. Hush. She curled up instantly, arms hugging herself, still shaking. Jace started a fire using scraps and turned on the power cells. The lights flickered, and the warmth returned slowly. He grabbed a clean cloth and wiped snow from her face and hair. She looked so fragile now, so young, maybe no older than 20. In human years, he boiled some water and made soup from old ration packs. As it heated, he turned and saw her eyes half open. Watching him, "You're safe now," he said gently. "No one's gonna hurt you here." She didn't speak, but her eyes blinked once, slow and tired. Jace placed a bowl near her, but didn't touch her. She stared at it, confused. He took a bite from his own bowl and showed her. After a moment, she reached out, her fingers trembling, and ate one spoonful. Then another. Then another. Faster now. Hours passed, and she fell asleep curled in the blankets. Jay sat near the fire, rifle by his side, eyes on the cave entrance. His mind raced with questions. Who was she? Why was she here? And who was hunting her? He didn't know the answers, but something deep inside him whispered, This girl had just changed everything. And outside, hidden in the snow, a small blinking drone camera zoomed in silently, watching. Reporting, the fire crackled softly in the cave. Throwing flickering light across the walls, Jace sat on a crate, eyes watching the alien girl sleeping in the corner. Her skin still glowed faintly, like moonlight, but her breathing had slowed and deepened. He could see the fear even in her sleep, the way her fingers twitched, the way her body curled as if trying to vanish. Outside, the wind roared like a wild beast. Another storm had rolled in, stronger, colder, thicker with ice, even if he wanted to take her back to a town or call for help. It was too late now. They were stuck together until the weather passed. Suddenly, she jolted upright with a sharp gasp, her eyes wide, her hands clawing at the air as if she couldn't breathe. Jace stood slowly and raised his hands again, speaking calmly. "It's okay, you're safe," he said. "No one's here but me." She backed away into the cave wall, breathing fast. Her hands glowed faintly like light gathering under her skin. Jace held his ground. Not reaching for his weapon, he saw her eyes scanning him, full of confusion and terror. But also something else: recognition, maybe trust, maybe just exhaustion. Then, slowly, she lowered her hands, and the glow faded. Her voice was low, trembling. "You not one of them," she said. Broken English heavy on her tongue. Jace nodded. "No. I'm just a guy trying to stay alive." She looked at the bowl beside her, still half full from earlier. He pushed it closer gently. Sitting back down, she picked it up and drank, still watching him. Her body shook with each sip, not just from cold, but from something deeper, something broken. After a few quiet moments, she looked at her arms. Jace noticed the bruises thin, sharp marks along her wrists, like cuffs, but not made for comfort, made for control. He frowned. "Did they do this to you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she touched the marks gently, then held her hand up, palm facing him, slowly. She drew a shape into the dirt with her 5 fingers, and a cross through the middle. It was like a symbol. A warning. Jace didn't recognize it, but the look on her face made his stomach twist. "Who are they?" he asked. She answered in one word again, full of fear. "Hunters." The fire cracked louder, as if responding to her voice. She hugged her knees now, voice softer. "They take my kind cell, cage, experiment." Her words stumbled, broken but clear enough. "They see me. Not girl, just thing." Jace clenched his jaw, the anger rising in his chest. He'd heard rumors: alien trafficking, secret labs, dirty black market deals. But hearing it from her lips, seeing it in her scars, hit different, real, raw. Ugly truth. She reached for her ankle and pulled aside the cloth. There, hidden beneath her skin, was a small, glowing line tech embedded into her body. It flickered red, faint but steady tracker. She said, voice like a whisper in the dark. Jace's heart skipped. That meant someone knew where she was. He stood fast and scanned the cave, then turned off the heating core's external vents. He ran to a shelf and grabbed an old signal jammer, a piece of scav tech he had barely fixed. He flipped it on, and a soft hum filled the air. The alien girl flinched at first, then looked at him with wide eyes. "You know what you're doing?" she asked. "Not really," he said, trying to smile, "but I know how to block a signal." She watched him for a long moment, then nodded once. Slowly, Jace returned to his crate, hands shaking slightly. She reached out toward the fire. Warming her fingers, her lips moved slightly, like she was humming a tune or praying. The silence stretched long. Only the wind outside and the fire inside making noise. Finally, she looked at him again. "You help me," she said softly. "Why?" Jace thought for a second, then shrugged. "Because I've been left alone before too." He said, "and I know how much it hurts." Her eyes softened, silver light reflecting the fire's glow. She nodded, then pointed at herself. "Leary," she said. Jace blinked. "Your name?" She nodded. He gave her a small smile. "Jace," he said, placing a hand on his chest. "Jace," she repeated, the name sounding strange on her lips, but kind. The moment didn't last long. A deep, low hum passed over the cave, barely audible. But not natural. Jace stood instantly, pulling his rifle to his side. Leary's eyes flashed in fear. "They come," she whispered. Jace stared at the entrance, heart pounding again, so it had begun. They weren't alone anymore. A strange hum passed over the cave again, low and deep like thunder in the ground. It didn't come from the wind or the storm outside. It was something else, mechanical, slow, searching. Jace moved fast. Grabbing his scope and switching off every light, the fire dimmed to embers. And the small cave fell into a red-runge darkness. Leary crouched beside him, body tense, her eyes glowing faintly like before. He peeked out through a crack in the rocks, holding his breath. There, slicing through the snow like a ghost, was a hovering drone. It floated silently, a round machine with blinking red eyes. It swept across the snow in a pattern zigzagging, scanning every inch. Leary whispered, "Hunter drone." Jace looked at her. "Will it find us?" She nodded slowly. "Unless we run now." Jace cursed under his breath. He didn't want to run not into a storm like this, but he had no choice. If the drone found them, others would follow, ones with weapons. Ships, chains. He stuffed emergency supplies into a bag, rations, heat packs, batteries, tools. He gave Leary a thick scarf and motioned for her to cover her glowing skin. Then he pulled the heavy tarp away from the back of the cave, revealing a narrow tunnel. It led deep into the old mining roots, dark, dusty, but safe for now. "This way?" he whispered. Leary hesitated just a second, then followed him without a word. They moved fast and low, boots crunching softly over ice and gravel. Jace kept his flashlight low and narrow, just enough to see the path. The tunnels stretched for miles beneath the snow, and Jace had mapped most of them over the years. He just hoped he remembered the safe routes. Some collapsed, others led to nowhere, and some held things better left undisturbed. After nearly half an hour, they stopped in an old control room. Broken screens lined the walls. Rusted pipes hissed gently. Leary sat down, breathing hard. Her face was pale, her body shaking again. But she hadn't complained, not once. Jace handed her a canteen and unwrapped a protein bar. She ate slowly now, watching him carefully. "What do they want from you?" he asked, his voice low. She looked down, then touched her arm, the one with the glowing line under her skin. "My blood," she said. Jace frowned. "Your blood?" She nodded. "They say it's rare, powerful, can heal or change." Jace sat down beside her, trying to make sense of it. "You mean like a cure?" "Yes," she said. "For sickness, maybe for war." Her voice trembled. "They want to use me. Take it all. Make weapons. Make money." He felt the weight of her words settle over him. She wasn't just running. She was being hunted for. Something she never asked for. He had heard of people with valuable genes, even rare tech embedded in alien children, but this was something more. Jace leaned back against the wall, gripping his rifle tighter. "Why not go to your people?" She looked away. "My people are gone," she whispered. "Some died, others scattered." She looked at him now, silver eyes shining with sadness. "I was their last hope." Jace didn't know what to say. She wasn't just a lost girl anymore. She was carrying something bigger than both of them. Suddenly, the wall-mounted screen beside them lit up static. Then red symbols. Leary gasped and pointed. They found cave. Jace's blood ran cold. "How many?" She placed a hand on the screen, reading the alien code. 3 ships, 1 large, 2 fast. He knew what that meant. They had minutes, maybe less. No time to rest, no time to think. "Come on," he said, pulling her up. They ran deeper into the tunnels. Feet echoing against the stone behind them. The sounds of metal and footsteps began to echo, distant but growing. Jace took a sharp turn, leading them through a collapsed shaft. He knew this path, knew where it led a sealed exit behind an old mining rig. But as they neared the end, a red beam suddenly swept past them. A drone had caught up hit, fired a pulse blast. Striking the wall beside them, Leary fell, crying out. Jace turned. Fired his rifle. The shot sparked against the drone's side. Knocking it back, he scooped Leary up and ran, ignoring the pain in his legs. Another blast missed by inches. They dove into a side tunnel and tumbled behind a broken generator. Jace's heart pounded. Leary groaned, holding her leg. She had been hit, not deep, but enough to slow her. He checked her quickly, then looked her in the eye. "We're not stopping," he said, voice fierce. She nodded, despite the pain. "Then I go where you go," she whispered. Jace helped her to her feet. Behind them, the drone buzzed, scanning again and above ground. The snowstorm began to clear, revealing the silent eyes of ships watching from the sky. They were out of time. The hunters had arrived. The wind above ground howled like a beast, waking from sleep. Snow blew sideways in long, sharp waves, as if trying to erase every footprint. But even the storm could not hide the glowing eyes of the hunter drones. They moved like ghosts across the white fields, silent, watching, waiting, beneath the surface. Jace led Leary through twisting tunnels deeper into the earth. He moved fast, his grip firm around her arm as she limped beside him. Every few seconds, he checked behind them, listening for the humming machines they were gaining. Leary tried to hide her pain, but her breathing told the truth. Her leg wound from the drone blast had started to bleed again. Still, she pushed forward without asking to stop. The fire in her eyes had changed, no longer just fear, but strength too. She was not just running now. She was surviving. They reached an old service ladder, stretching straight up into the dark. At the top, a sealed metal hatch led to the surface. Jace pointed. "If we get through this hatch, we can lose them in the canyons." Leary hesitated, looking up. "Too open," she said. "They'll track us anyway," Jace replied. "But out there, we choose the direction." He climbed first, kicking ice loose with each step. At the top, he used a wrench to pry the frozen hatch open. Snow fell in as the door creaked wide. Jace reached down, grabbed Leary's hand, and pulled her up. They emerged into a nightmare. Blinding white everywhere, snow flying like knives. The cold stabbed through their clothes instantly. Jace pulled up his scarf and pointed east. "That way," he said. "There's an old fuel station, long dead, but it has a shield room underground." They moved fast through the storm, each step slow and heavy. Leary held her side, every movement costing her pain, but she didn't stop. Not once. Behind them, they heard a sharp whining sound, then a blast of red light through the snow. "Down!" Jace shouted. They hit the ground just as a hunter drone burst through the fog. Lasers sweeping the air, Jace rolled, aimed, and fired 2 quick shots. The drone sparked, spun wildly, and crashed into the snow behind them. More were coming. Leary looked up at him, her eyes wide. "I can slow them," she said. "What?" She raised her hand and touched the glowing mark under her skin. "Short-range pulse," she said. "Hurts me, but buys time." Before he could stop her, she placed her palm on the snow and focused. A wave of blue light pulsed from her body, spreading across the ice. Somewhere behind them, they heard a drone crash. Hard systems fried mid-air. But Leary collapsed into the snow, coughing hard. Jace caught her, wrapping her in his coat as he lifted her again. "You didn't have to." I chose. She whispered, "Now run," with renewed urgency. Jace carried her through the storm. He knew the path. Now rocks shaped like claws led to the broken fence around the old station. Snow covered most of it, but the steel door was still visible, bent and half open. He kicked it hard, forcing space for them to squeeze through. Inside was dark, cold, and filled with ice-crusted wires and broken screens. The place had been dead for decades, but below, the shield room might still hold power. Jace found the emergency lift, barely working, but just enough. They descended in silence, the elevator creaking with each foot of movement. The room below was small and round, covered in old tech and alien language. Jace set Leary down gently on a bench and found the main console. He powered it on with a spark pack, and to his surprise, a blue glow filled the room. The shield activated with a soft hum, blocking all signals in and out. For now, they were invisible. Leary leaned back, eyes half closed. "You know this place." "Well," she whispered. "I've scavenged it before," he said. "Didn't think I'd ever use it for hiding." She gave a weak smile. "Good hide." He sat beside her, watching her breathe. Her hands trembled slightly, and her wound still bled. He tore some cloth from his coat and wrapped it gently. She winced, but didn't pull away. After a long silence, she spoke again. "You didn't run," she said, "even when danger came." "Didn't feel right leaving you," he answered. "Many would." She replied. "I'm not many," he said simply. She looked at him then, truly looked. "You strange human," she whispered. "But kind." Jace didn't reply, but he felt something shift in the air. Not just the warmth from the shield, not just the silence after the storm. Something between them, something unspoken but real. Above them, in the snowstorm, the hunter ships circled, confused by the lost signal. They scanned, searched, and moved. On just for now, but they would return. And when they did, the human and the alien girl would be ready, together. The silence inside the old shield room felt like a warm blanket after the cold storm above. The hum of the energy field pulsed softly, keeping them hidden for now, but danger still pressed against the edges of Jace's mind. He had questions, many, but one burned hotter than the rest. He looked at Leary, who lay wrapped in his coat. Resting, her breathing had calmed, but her skin still glowed faintly blue. She looked fragile, but beneath that softness, there was something powerful, something deep. He sat beside her again, his voice quiet. "You said they want your blood?" he began. "Why? What's in it?" Leary didn't open her eyes, but she answered slowly, "Something ancient." She whispered, "Something lost." Jace frowned, confused. "Explain." She opened her eyes then. Silver pools, full of pain and memory. "My kind. Long ago. We were sick," she said. "Whole planets. Dying." She placed a hand over her chest. "But there was one child, my ancestor, born with blood that healed. Cleansed the sickness, gave energy, repaired cells." Jace leaned in, listening, carefully, like a cure. "More," she said. "It was life itself." He sat back, stunned. "So your blood. It carries that same gift." She nodded slowly, passed down, weaker in each generation. She continued, "But in me, it came back strong." Jace ran a hand through his hair, trying to process what he was hearing. "You're a living cure," he said. "No wonder they want you." "They don't want to save lives," she said bitterly. "They want to sell it, drop by drop, to the highest bidder." Jace clenched his fists, anger rising in his chest. All this time, he thought he had just saved a lost girl in the snow. But she was more than that. She was a miracle hunted. "Like prey, you said your people are gone," he said softly. "There's no one left to protect you." Leary looked away. "My mother sent me off-world," she whispered. "She was caught, maybe killed. The others are in hiding. I was the last free one." Jace felt something heavy settle in his chest. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about keeping something pure from falling into greedy hands. "Why not destroy it?" he asked. "The thing in your blood." Leary looked at him with wide eyes. "Because it's hope," she said. "Not just for my kind," she pointed at him. "For yours too." He didn't know what to say to that. He had spent years surviving, running, hiding, scavenging scraps of tech and food. He never imagined being part of something that mattered. "Then we make sure they don't get you," he said. Voice firm, Leary gave a small, tired smile. "You protect me," she whispered. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he replied. "I know you didn't ask for this, and I know you didn't give up." A soft silence followed, but it wasn't empty. It was warm, shared between two lives now tangled together. Suddenly, a weak signal flickered across the old console. Jace jumped up, checking the screen. It wasn't from the hunters, it was something else. A distress beacon, old and fading, but real. Leary sat up slowly, her eyes fixed on it. She reached forward, her fingers dancing across the controls, encrypted. "Alien code," she said. "But not Hunter." Jace stared at the screen. "What is it?" She worked for a moment, then gasped. "My people," she whispered. "One ship." Hiding nearby, his eyes widened. "You can contact them." She nodded. "If signal stays strong. They may hear me." Jace looked at the power gauge Roddy dropping. The shield was draining energy fast, and the station was too old. "To keep it going much longer, we can boost the signal," he said. "But we'll have to drop the shield." Leary looked at him, fear in her eyes. "They'll find us. They're already looking," he said. "This may be our only chance." She hesitated, then gave a single nod. "Together." They moved fast, Jace, opening old panels, Leary feeding power from her biocircuit. The shield flickered, then dropped, leaving them exposed. At the same time, the beacon lit up, pulsing stronger, clearer. Leary spoke into the comm in her native language, her voice calm but urgent. Then they waited. Minutes passed. Then a reply came, a soft tone. Then words in her tongue. She translated, tears in her eyes. They heard. "They're coming." Jace allowed himself to breathe again. But then he heard it above them, the hum of a hunter ship changing direction. "They heard too," he said, grabbing his gear. "They'll be here before your people." Leary stood, weak but ready. Then she looked at him. "If I don't make it, you will," he cut in. "I'm not letting them take you." The ground above began to shake, heavy landing gear, boots, machines. Jace stood in front of Leary, rifle in hand. And as the door shook with force from above, she touched his back gently. "Thank you." "Strange human," she said. "You gave me more than safety." He didn't look back. He just whispered, "Then let's make it out of here, together." They waited for the final fight to begin. The sound of boots hitting metal echoed through the old station like thunder. Jace stood near the broken control panel, rifle in hand, eyes locked on the elevator shaft. The hunters were coming, and this time they weren't sending drones. They were coming in person with guns, armor, and orders to capture or kill. Leary stood beside him, still weak but standing tall. The signal to her people had been sent, but their ship was still 20 minutes away. They had to survive until then. Jace knew the layout of the station. There was only one way in and one way out. If he held that corridor, Leary had a chance. He pulled crates, broken panels, and metal scraps into a quick barricade. It wouldn't stop bullets, but it would slow them down. Leary crouched behind the cover, trying to hide the glow from her arm. "You don't have to do this," she said softly. "I'm already doing it," he replied without looking. Footsteps grew louder, closer. Jace peeked around the edge and saw 3 figures enter the hallway. They were tall, armored head to toe in matte black gear, no faces. No names, just mercenaries. One of them carried a scanner, and it beeped fast and loud. They're close. A voice growled through a speaker. Jace waited, holding his breath. Then he fired. The first shot hit the wall near the lead soldier's head. A warning, not a kill. But the second came faster. This one aimed to injure, not scare. It slammed into the shoulder of the second man. Spinning him to the ground, the others ducked for cover, shouting orders. Return fire lit up the hallway, sparks flying as bullets hit steel and stone. Jace ducked low, reloaded, and fired again. He wasn't a trained soldier anymore, but he remembered enough. Leary watched him fight. Eyes wide, he didn't hide behind. Her didn't ask her to save him. He stood between her and danger like a wall. One human, facing 3 elite killers. The mercenaries advanced slowly, using smoke grenades to cloud the room. Jace coughed hard, vision blurring. One of them tossed. An energy net forwarded hit the side of the wall and sparked. Leary shouted, "Jace, behind you." He spun and fired blindly, hitting the leg of the third man. The soldier screamed and fell, but the lead mercenary rushed forward. Slamming into Jace with full force, they crashed to the ground. Jace's rifle skidding away, fists flew. Metal? Against flesh, Jace grunted as the mercenary pinned him down. Armored hands around his throat. Leary stood, panic in her voice. "Stop." She cried, "Please." The soldier didn't listen. Jace struggled, his vision darkening. Then Leary raised her hand. Her fingers glowed bright white. The mark on her arm pulsing like a heartbeat. She slammed her palm into the floor. A shockwave burst from her body. Small, focused but powerful. It hit the attacker directly, sending him flying off Jace. Jace gasped for air, coughing hard. Leary dropped to her knees, drained again. But the mercenary didn't get up. The second soldier crawled backward, holding his bleeding leg. He stared at the girl in horror. She's the real one," he whispered, then turned and ran, limping away. Jace reached for his rifle and aimed at the fallen one, but the man didn't move. It was over for now. Silence fell. Leary collapsed beside Jace, her body shaking. He caught her, pulling her into his arms gently. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded weakly. "Used too much power." He held her tighter. "You saved me," he whispered. "You saved me first," she replied, eyes barely open. Then above them a new sound. A low hum, smoother and softer than the hunter's ships. Jace stood and helped Leary to her feet. They stumbled outside the broken wall and looked up. A silver ship descended through the snow clouds, glowing with blue light. Its design was nothing like the hunter's ship's elegant, clean, peaceful. Leary's eyes filled with tears. "My people," she whispered. The ship hovered just above the ground, and a ramp extended outward. 3 figures in flowing robes ran toward them, calling Leary's name. She turned to Jace, smiling through her pain. "They came." He nodded slowly. They did. As the alien rescuers reached her, they dropped to one knee in front of her. One spoke in her language, gently. Leary replied weakly. Then turned to Jace again. "They say you are chosen," she said. "You are marked by action, not blood." He looked confused. "I don't understand." She took his hand and placed it over her heart. "You are part of this now," she said, "forever." Jace didn't know what the future held. He didn't know if more hunters would return, or if his quiet life was gone for good. But as the snow blew around them, now the alien ship opened its doors. He knew one thing for sure. He wasn't alone anymore. Snow drifted across the open plains like soft whispers in the wind. The battle was over, and the sky was clear again. The hunter ships had pulled back after losing their men. They had no idea a larger force now watched from above a ship of Leary's people, quiet and powerful. Jace stood at the edge of the ruined station. his boots crunching softly in the snow. The wind no longer stung as badly. Or maybe he didn't feel it anymore. Beside him, Leary leaned against a support beam. Her wound wrapped and healing slowly. She was quiet. Her glowing eyes focused on the silver ship that floated above the ground. More of her people had come out tall. Graceful figures with soft glowing robes and kind eyes. They spoke in hushed tones, worked fast with old tools and devices to clean the scene. But none of them touched Jace without bowing first. He didn't understand their ways, but he could feel a respect. Leary turned to him, her hair now brushed and her skin less pale. She looked stronger than before, though her body was still recovering. "They want me to leave with them," she said, her voice low. Jace looked at her, unsure of what he felt. "You should," he said. "It's your home." She nodded slowly. "Yes, but I don't want to go alone." Jace blinked. "What do you mean?" She reached into the folds of her robe and pulled out a small glowing crystal. It pulsed gently, like a living heartbeat. "This is part of me," she said, "and now it belongs to you too." He stared at it, unsure whether to take it, but when she placed it into his palm, he felt warmth spread through his fingers. "It didn't burn, it comforted. It links us," she whispered. "If I call, you'll hear." Jace looked into her eyes and felt something shift again. Not just survival anymore, not just protection. Something deeper had formed between them in that frozen storm. Something no words could fully explain. He tucked the crystal safely into his coat. Leary smiled, then looked back at the ship. "My people believe you are the reason I lived," she said. "They say I must offer something in return." Jace raised an eyebrow. "You already did. You stayed alive." She laughed softly, a beautiful sound like music in the wind. "But they insist," she said. "They want to give you a place among us, a new home, a new life." Jace looked around the broken earth, the dead station, the snow-covered emptiness. And then he looked at her. "I never had a home before," he said. "Not really." She stepped closer and took his hand. "Then come," she whispered. "Let me give you one." The ramp of the alien ship opened wider, and the others began to board. Leary held Jace's hand tightly as they walked up together. He looked back. One sat. The snow, at the cave. At the world he had survived alone for so long. Then the doors closed. Inside, the ship was unlike anything he had seen. Soft light, curved walls. Sounds that felt like gentle songs. One of the alien leaders approached and bowed. "You carry?" "No blood of ours," he said in broken English, "but your heart is pure, and your courage." Rare Jace didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. Leary smiled, and they sat together by a viewing window. Below, the frozen world grew smaller. Above, stars stretched out forever. As the ship moved through the atmosphere, Leary rested. Her head on his shoulder. "I was ready to die in the snow," she whispered. "And then you held out your hand." Jace looked down at her. "I didn't think," he said. "I just couldn't walk away." She reached for his hand again and held it tight. "You walked toward me instead." They sat like that in silence as the stars moved around them. The past below, the future ahead, two strangers from different worlds. Now walking the same path, and on that quiet, gentle night. Far away from war and fear and pain, the snow fell again, soft and slow. But this time, it didn't bring cold, it brought peace.